Today I'm going to test the new CB300F Twister, the replacement for the 250 Twister. And in this video, you'll learn everything about them. Technical features, versions, colors, price, top speed, and of course, my opinion riding this motorcycle. Did I like it? Watch until the end and I'll tell you. If you're new here, I'm Amanda Pagliari, and this is the most charming motorcycle channel in Brazil. If you're a motorcycle enthusiast or just getting started, consider subscribing to this channel.
It's free with new weekly content, launches, news, and tips.
In fact, this is also the most interactive channel on YouTube. I'm going to answer all these questions that are on the screen until the end, so don't go anywhere, stay in the video. And before I introduce you to the new CB300F, I need to tell you a little bit about the history of this motorcycle since it was first launched in India, but it's a Brazilian project made in BR. What happened was that the Indians launched it there first because here in Brazil, Honda still had a delivery schedule for the old 250 Twister. So because of that, India went ahead and launched the 300F there in their market, of course, with some changes that caused controversy and a lot of talk. Because there, the version of the CB300F Twister, which is basically the same bike, had some adaptations. For example, the front suspension is inverted and the dashboard also has connectivity with the cell phone. About this difference, there's a video here on the channel. I asked Ms. Honda, Ms. Honda, why the difference? And Ms. Honda answered, I'll leave the video here in the description and also in the card. Go watch it, because they explained why the Brazilian version has this feature and the Indian one is different, okay? So before complaining, watch the video first, and then after you watch it, you can have your own opinion. Well, now talking about the motorcycle, starting with the design, which catches attention wherever it goes. You guys really love this bike. All the videos I uploaded to the channel about it were a hit. And honestly, the design turned out really beautiful. The Brazilian designers did a great job. It really looks like a street fighter, right? Look, take a look. Look at this front fairing here, how amazing it is. Look at the big tank here, how robust it looks. By the way, now it's made of plastic, right? And it's in 3 pieces. That's a good thing because if you fall, for example, on the right side, you don't need to replace the whole tank. You just change the part that got damaged. What does that bring, guys? More savings? So we have an aggressive design here with these fins, and now the seat is also split with this passenger handle here, very interesting and beautiful. The tank capacity has decreased a little. Now it holds 14.1 liters. Remember, it's flex fuel, which means it accepts gasoline or ethanol in any proportion. And Nito, to answer your question about fuel consumption, Honda said it's more economical compared to the 250. Do you have that written down? According to Honda, the 250 averaged 35 kilometers per liter, while this version here, according to Honda, can reach up to 39.7 kilometers per liter. In other words, oh my God, almost 40. Look, I want to see that. Remember, these numbers were provided by Honda. I would need to do a full test with more time to see if this fuel consumption is at least close. Another new feature is that the lighting system is now full LED. So here we have, look, the headlight, turn signals, and tail light are also LED. That's a good thing. And to answer you, Xander, no, the turn signals don't stay on all the time like they do on the 500F, for example, and other medium and high displacement motorcycles from Honda. But I think it's a big improvement. It already came with LED, it was needed, and the design of this headlight is amazing, right? Look, its dry weight has increased a little. Now it has 139 kilograms of dry weight, meaning without considering the fluids and the fuel tank. I'll get on here so you can see it has 78.9 centimeters from the seat to the ground. So I really think it's a motorcycle that fits most riders, and the riding position is very comfortable in relation to the handlebars, right? The foot pegs are positioned slightly rearward to provide a more naked bike feel. The front suspension travel hasn't changed. It's the same as the 250. However, the suspension itself is new. Look how sturdy the fork is. We're talking about a fork with a diameter of 41 millimeters. So even though it's not inverted like the Indian version, Honda guarantees that this suspension can handle our streets, our roads as well, and the motorcycle's purpose. Just to remind you, as I mentioned, it was born Brazilian, and in the original design, it came without an inverted suspension. It was the people in India who made that change. There were no changes in the rear either. It still has a monoshock with 120 millimeters of travel without adjustment. One cool thing is that it has two types of springs, so as you can see in the animation, the darker spring prevents it from bottoming out, while the spring you see in red is responsible for the damping. The wheels have a new design and still use 17-inch rims, and they even got new tires, with the rear one being wider, which brings more stability. There haven't been any changes to the brakes, so we have discs on both wheels. In the front, there's a disc with a diameter of 276 millimeters, and in the rear, it's 220 millimeters in diameter. Honda offers two versions of the CB300F Twister. The ABS version, which is this one here with ABS brakes on both wheels, and the version with combined brakes, okay? So if you don't know the difference between ABS and combined braking system brakes, I made a quick video explaining it. Go to the description or click on the card to watch that video, and then you'll be able to make the best purchase decision. And here we have a brand new fully digital blackout style dashboard with a gear indicator. Really nice. Here on the outside, we have a tachometer, speedometer, clock, and down here we have several pieces of information. It's really an onboard computer. Here we have the total odometer reading and the total odometer consumption. And here we have the trip meter, right? So you press the top button here and we can see both trip A and its consumption, right? And also trip B. They're the same because they haven't been reset, but it's nice that you can make separate measurements, okay? So you can change the information directly here on the panel. We have here the most complete panel in the category. And here on the left side, there's a USB-C port for you to charge your phone. Regarding the engine, this one has nothing to do with the engine of the old CB300 Twister or with the XRE300 that is currently sold on the market. This engine here is derived from the CB250 Twister, of course, with improvements, an engine with electronic fuel injection with 293.5 cubic centimeters, single-cylinder flex, as I told you, and air-cooled. It's an engine that produces 24 horsepower, so the engine really became more powerful. And according to Honda, the curve has also changed. It delivers more torques at the start and also has more leeway at the top end. By the way, guys, the gear ratio has changed, which is a good thing. It brings more technology. Now it comes with a slipper and assist clutch. What does that mean? The assist clutch makes it smoother, so you need less pressure when you're shifting gears when you squeeze the lever, okay? The slipper clutch prevents the rear wheel from locking up, which is a really good thing that we don't usually see on low displacement motorcycles. Remember that the motorcycle already had 6 gears in the 250 version, and here it also keeps the 6 gears. Now that you know all about the new CB300F Twister, it's time to test it out and see if it's any good, right? But then which one will I choose? Both have ABS, and I'm going to choose the one I think is prettier. The gold one, of course. I'm not silly, right? Hop on my back seat. My first impressions here with the CB300F Twister, wow, it's really good. First, the way your legs fit, right? The tank is really robust. It gives you that big bike feeling, not just visually, but also when you get on it, this big tank down here. Wow, it really feels solid. And for me, this part fits really well. Like I said, wow, it's really a delight to ride the 300F. Of course, the riding position is like a naked bike, right? The foot pegs are set back, which can't be changed. The seat is currently acceptable in terms of comfort, but I think now the Twister feels sportier. We finally left the city. Now we're on the fifth gear on the road, going over 100 kilometers per hour. Look, I found the bike to be smooth. Now at 115, 116, I'm feeling the right foot peg vibrate a bit more, but not the handlebars. I think it doesn't transfer as much to my hands. Yeah, single-cylinder engines vibrate, guys. There's no way around it. But I was really impressed, seriously, with how smooth this bike is. My God, seriously. It feels like the riding sensation in terms of handling and maneuverability feels like a 160cc. Light, easy, agile. However, it has the look of a big bike, right? The appearance and also the engine, which is better now. A more powerful engine with a better torque curve. Its gear ratio has changed, the second Honda. So it gives you more torque at the start and then it gives you more top speed. Because of the gear ratio that was changed compared to the 250, but wow, what a fun little bike to ride. So really, now we're going to hit a curvy stretch and we're really going to feel all of its sportiness. It already has that sporty vibe in its looks in the riding position because the foot pegs are set back, so it really encourages that sporty feeling. Here you can't even see the headlight, right? The view you have here from the cockpit is just the dashboard, that's it. You don't have that big headlight sticking out or the turn signals, so it really reminds you of a Street Fighter. You really feel like you're riding a naked bike, you know, a Street Fighter, and that really is part of the riding experience, how you feel on it. But we're gonna test it on the curves in just a bit, but right away, I already like how smooth it feels. I'm gonna go through now. I really want to go over these potholes to see how the suspension behaves. So far, it really hasn't bottomed out. But it's a sportier suspension. If you want maximum comfort, for example, you should go with the XRE 300. This is a motorcycle with a sportier feel. It gives you stability in the curves, gives you more control. It's a motorcycle that really responds to you, right? With that sportier vibe. So that's it, right? That's the idea behind this bike. But people talk a lot in India about inverted suspension. I have to admit that I've never ridden with the inverted suspension, which abroad is from the 300R. So basically, India took a suspension they already had in production and put it on this bike. If Honda had developed a specific inverted suspension for this bike, it would have been very expensive. Imagine if they used the suspension from the 500F line, for example, it would be very expensive. Or from the 650R, that suspension would be very expensive, you know? And it doesn't even have any adjustments. So what happened is that India really took advantage of having the inverted suspension there and gave the bike a little boost. But here, if Honda were to develop something specific for it, it would be more expensive. And judging by the price they brought this bike in at, I thought it was good. What the people at Honda explained is that, well, a thin inverted fork is worse than a sturdy regular one. Does that make sense? It makes sense. But I don't think that inverted suspension from Honda is that bad. I think it's a good suspension, inverted and good. Now, there might be others on the Brazilian market that really have a thin inverted fork, and then you'd have to call an engineer to evaluate it. It's not up to Amandinha to say if the suspension is good or not, right? What I can say about this bike I'm testing is that the suspension is firm, but it fits our terrain well.
Now we're going to do some off-roading with it. Now we're going to climb Lamont.
Just kidding. Regarding the pedal board, there was no change, okay? Compared to the 250, it's actually the same chassis as the 250. The 300 uses the same chassis, okay? So, if you were already familiar with the riding position, it's the same thing. The passenger seat has become sportier, right? I don't know how much more uncomfortable it got. In a more detailed test, I'll let you know, okay? But it's obvious that the motorcycle has a sportier vibe now, there's no doubt about it. Honestly, it really looks like a street fighter. One thing I wanted to mention is that even though it's light, right? I think the suspension works really well because it doesn't make the front end unstable, right? The front end really sticks to the ground and you get stability from the bike. Even though it's light, you can control it in the curves. So honestly, I thought that was really good. Well guys, regarding the top speed, according to Honda, they did the measurement there with the Mauer Institute. They have their own methodology, the proper measuring equipment, and it reached 39.7 kilometers per hour at top speed. That's real, okay?
GPS, not the dashboard, so let's round it up. 140 kilometers per hour, right?
But for sure, someone on the internet is going to show up and say they hit 199 with it, right?
Remember, going downhill with the wind at your back is easier, especially if the person is very thin. On the motorcycle, right?
That's how it is, right?
That also makes a difference. And I'm here with Alfredo Gades, an engineer from Honda, and he's going to answer not my question. But here, look, from Rinaldo. He wants to know, Alfredo, regarding the engine, I've already explained that this engine has nothing to do with the XRE or the old CB300 twister, that it's an evolution of the 150cc twister, but people still have doubts. Because in the past, Honda had a problem when they upgraded the engine from 250 to 300, and this one is getting an upgrade, so to speak. Is there a risk that this engine will have problems in the future? And what do you think?
No, Ronaldo, these are very different cases, right? We're talking about the first 250cc twister back then, which had a dual overhead cam engine, was carbureted and then became fuel injected, went from 250 to 300, the same dual overhead cam engine. But we had a carburetor system and then an electronic fuel injection system.
Compliance with legislation, right?
Compliance with legislation, and you have differences in operating temperature. In the carburetor, normally you have, let's say, the air-fuel mixture a little richer, meaning you have more fuel. On the other hand, electronic injection tends to work with a slightly leaner mixture, so that creates temperature differences. But we had a few isolated cases, even related to the way the bike was used, where the engine didn't reach the ideal temperature, especially on shorter trips. In our fleet, the journalists always used the bike for longer periods. We never had any problems. Now we're discussing a completely different situation. First, the engine is different. It's an engine with a camshaft and 4 valves, 2 intake and 2 exhaust.
Was it already fuel injected?
It was already fuel injected from the start. It already has the same operating temperature characteristics. And proof of that is that actually what changed in it was the piston diameter. The stroke, the distance the piston travels inside the cylinder, remained 63 millimeters, but the stroke went from 71 millimeters to 77. It became more torquey. So you must have noticed that now, with less acceleration, it has to work at a lower revolutions per minute. That's why it's more economical. MAL's data shows it remained in the same usage condition. It became more economical than the 250 from Twister.
Everything improved, including fuel efficiency. That's great. So that's it, everyone. It looks like it won't crack. To those of you hoping for the new Twister's failure, it won't happen. Thanks, Pedro.
Thank you.
Regarding the questions I received about the CB300 in relation to the MT-03, once again, I need to say that it doesn't compete with the MT-03, okay? As I mentioned in a detailed video, link in description, the Yamaha MT-03 competes with Honda's CB500F. So the competitor of the CB300F is the FZ25 from Yamaha. Honda and Yamaha aren't the only bikes available. What's your opinion? Is the phaser finished? Share your thoughts in the comments. And we have two versions available, starting with the CBS version in red and black, with a suggested retail price starting at 18,900 Rs, and the red and gold version with ABS brakes, 19,800 Rs. Remember, the price is only suggested by Honda. The final price is up to the dealership, which is another controversy. The Ferrari law allows each dealership to set a Mandinga's tip. If it's expensive at one dealership, buy from another. As a consumer, you have the power to choose. So that's really good. I think this motorcycle came to make quite a splash. It will greatly please the market. As I said in the GoPro, it's a delight, really smooth. It handles like a CG, but with a powerful engine of nearly 300 cc, it's very easy to ride and packed with technology. New dashboard, slipper clutch, USB-C port. That's it. If you enjoyed the video, like and share it. Remember, this is a first impressions video. A full Motoplay style video with pros and cons is coming. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. See you next time. Moto Kiss. Honda included that cool 3-in-1 setup, right? It keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse. Look, and look.